Good afternoon. Welcome to Rotary Club LaGrange. It is so good to be with you today. We appreciate you all taking time to be here. You've been gone too long. Welcome back. Hope you all and your families had a wonderful Christmas and New Year's. So if you look at the Rotary year, we're halfway done. At least I am. I don't know about you. Anyway, I'm really grateful for everybody who's chipped in and volunteered, and just the many ways that you all have made this a great experience this year. So I appreciate all of our volunteers. Looking forward to our program today. We have a great speaker, have a great line of speakers this month. So if you're a guest, please plan to come back. Let's start with an invocation. Gerald? Where's Gerald? All right, if you would lead us an invocation, then we'll do the pledge of allegiance. So we're fortunate to have a number of guests with us today. I'm going to ask Kelsey Henderson to come up and introduce them.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce our guests. Please stand when your name is called and remain standing until all names have been introduced. I'll begin with the guest of Chip Penn. First, we have Cindy Craig, Nate Crawford, Bob Gearing, Chad Cooper, and Tyler Baker. Next, we have Tom Guffin, guest visiting Rotarian, from the Auburn Rotary Club. Next, we have Michelle Moore, guest of Jaja Hurd and William Childs. Next, we have Dr. April Armstead, guest of Gerald Wyatt. And lastly, we have Juan Oroso, guest of Mike Wilson. And he's with the Rotary Club of Downtown Columbus. So welcome.
Thank you, Kelsey. Again, thank you all for taking time to be here. I'd love to have you back anytime. And if you have any questions about upcoming programs, please let me know. We have some milestones to recognize. I want to mention some of the birthdays and anniversaries that are coming up. So we do have a number of birthdays since our last meeting. So Rhett Jones was January 3rd. Susanna Baxter, today, happy birthday. Connie Hensler is tomorrow. Charlie Fergus is the 12th. And Leon is the 13th. So big week. Happy birthday, everybody. We're fortunate to have great longevity in the club, and we have a number of club member anniversaries. Jason Weldon, 11 years. Bill Bowling, 11 years. Ed Biggs, 13 years. And Jeff Brown, 37 years. So congratulations on the long. And we may have mentioned this last time, but it's worth saying twice. Zachary Taylor, wedding anniversary, 41 years, so congratulations. So a couple of announcements. As I mentioned, we have really strong programs in January and February, so take this as an opportunity to invite a friend. You know, we've had, I think we had 15 new members this year. We'd love to continue to build on that momentum. So invite a friend, invite a guest, and introduce them to the club. So let's see, our social. We have a big social this week. So Thursday at 5:30 at Beacon Lounge. So somebody would ask, where's Beacon Lounge? What's it? Beacon Brewing Company. So it's in Hillside neighborhood at Beacon. We're going to have great appetizers, drinks for an hour or so. So please plan to join us. Looks like we have about 44 that have RSVP'd. If you haven't, you still want to come, let me know. We would love to have you. And then I want to go ahead and mention one more time our annual conference that's coming up in March. So March 21st through 24th, the annual conference is in Jekyll Island. If you want to attend, let me know. Let me know. It's time to start registering, so let me know if you're interested. So there's a lot to be happy about. We haven't seen each other in a couple of weeks, so I'll open up the floor for happy dollars for whoever's interested.
I have $1, the Racial Trust Building Group with Friends of the LaGrange Memorial Library are co-sponsoring the program on Saturday, January 20th, a week and a half from now. Bill Rose, a sociology professor with the that walked about how green pollution defines the odds of change possible. So we want to here.
Thanks, Ben.
I have $5 happy to just celebrate that we're now in Mardi Gras season. And that transition went from the 12 days of Christmas. Last day of Christmas was January 6th. Now we start up Mardi Gras season. That goes until about February 13th. There's 2 sets of royalty in LaGrange. There's one king queen who preside over the parade. There's another queen and queen. And we have candidates within our group who are running for king and queen, and I think we should support them. Also, you're all invited to the Mardi Gras parade on the last Saturday of this month at 7 o'clock at night, January 27th.
$5. I stand to honor the birth of my first grandchild. My father-in-law goes by the name of Killian. His beauty makes mothers weep and daughters weep. He's the first child born in St. Augustus Hospital in Columbia, Maryland for this year. And I invite tomorrow night at 5:30, where we'll raise the glass and move on.
We'll throw $2 in for Cheryl, not Cheryl Stanton. Cheryl Baber is the other in-house Mardi Gras behind the mask candidate.
Thank you for doing this. I have a quick happy dollar. I want to recognize Mike Wilson, who is being given the Outstanding Eagle Award. I just found that out earlier today, which is one of 2 in the conference. Certainly, nobody in our community has done more for scouts, and just appreciate the work they're doing. So I actually have 10. That's all I had. So you owe me $9, Mike. Let's see. Any other announcements for the group? Let's move to the program. So I'm going to invite Jaja Hurd to come up and introduce our speaker. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you all Carol Whitman. No, she's the president and chief executive officer of Purpose Built Communities, an incubator catalyst for social change dedicated to improving racial equity, economic mobility, and health outcomes in neighborhoods across the country. As Carol sets the strategic vision for the organization with a focus on growth development, the vision and the impact on this will focus on purpose-built communities, the network, the neighborhoods served by the organization. Purpose-built communities works with local leaders to help them plan, implement, and sustain holistic neighborhood revitalization initiatives that create healthy neighborhoods that include broad, deep, and permanent pathways on prosperity for low-income families. Carol is a graduate of Emory University Law School of Law and Colgate University. Carol serves on the board of the directors of Low Income Investment Fund and serves on several national advisory boards, including Fifth Third Bank National Community Advisory Forum. I spoke with Carol, but I wanted y'all to have some fun things about her because we had things in common. Carol worked at the Housing Authority of Atlanta, and that was one of the things that she enjoyed most. But she just celebrated a 40th wedding anniversary with her husband on Sunday. They have 2 adult children, Connor, who's a middle school math teacher in Athens, and Maggie is a public health analyst in Atlanta. She's actually from upstate New York, and she came to Atlanta to only attend law school, but for 3 years, but she's still here, y'all. And then she happily tore her ankle doing something I love to do, and that's playing tennis. Purpose-built communities was launched in 2009 with the demand of these communities across the country. East Lake Light Initiatives. They support 25 initiatives around the country and 20 or so more in the pipeline. Her work has been acknowledged and critically and highly effective by Warren Buffett, Ben Bernanke, the Wall Street Journal, the Federal Reserve Bank, and many others. Rotary, I introduce you, Carol Knight.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to be here today. I want to introduce you to my colleague, Sarah Freeman. Sarah has been with us for all of 5 weeks. So she is still learning the ropes at Purpose Built, and I'm delighted that she's with us today as well. You know, I was thinking about how much I love being at a Rotary meeting. I love listening to the talk, the chatter, the conversations going on at tables. I love the fact that you come together and spend time together on a regular basis, weekly if you can. These are how you build the kinds of relationships that create strong towns, strong cities, and a strong country. I'm really focused these days on social capital and building both bonding capital. People like ourselves get to know each other better, trust each other, but more importantly, bridging social capital. The kind of social capital that connects us with people who have had very different life experiences than we have, but when we get to know them and trust them, it creates an opportunity for us to work to solve some of our really hardest problems. So I think you all and Rotary is a really important part of that solution of creating important social capital that can really strengthen our country in what I think are hard times. Now, Purpose Built started in 2009, but I'm going to take you back to 1995. I had just left the private practice of law. I was a dime a dozen commercial real estate lawyer at a fancy pants Atlanta law firm, hated pretty much every minute of it. I learned how to be a really good lawyer, but it didn't float my boat. It wasn't why I went to law school. And I didn't know I had come to law school for purpose. And I was telling Sarah earlier, in June of 1994, I was on the board of governors of the State Bar meeting down in Simon's Island. And it was the night of the O.J. Simpson's Bronco chase. And those of us at a certain age will all remember where we were when America was glued to the television to watch that slow chase through Los Angeles. And I found out that night I was pregnant with my second child. It's relevant to the story. Everybody else was watching the Bronco chase. I was in the bathroom doing what I did for the next 9 months. I had the kind of morning sickness that used to kill people. And because I was so sick when I was pregnant, I slowed down in a way that I had not slowed down since I was a young person. And I couldn't work, I could lay in bed, I couldn't read, but I could listen to the TV. And everything was 24/7 OJ Simpson. All the cable news channels, everything was 24/7 OJ Simpson. And I'm embarrassed and a little ashamed to admit, but it was the first time that I really thought hard about the different life experiences Black people had had in America, particularly with regard to the legal justice system. And when I came back after giving birth to my daughter, I came back and talked to my bosses and said, I am going to leave this practice. I need to be doing something that is about social justice. That's why I went to law school. And it was the O.J. Simpson experience of recognizing again what a fundamentally different experience Black people had had in this country than white people that got me off my bottom and helped me change direction. I didn't know what I was going to do. What in God's name can a real estate lawyer do to help anybody, right? And a couple of weeks later, somebody walked in my office and said, "I've just heard about a job that might be exactly right for you." And it was at the Atlanta Housing Authority. And they were looking for a deal lawyer, somebody who could help create the legal and financial model to do what we now call mixed income housing. How could we marry up public and private dollars, work with the private sector and the public sector to deliver affordable housing in a way that would no longer isolate and marginalize and warehouse low income folks? Because in Atlanta, that's what public housing was doing. And so we wanted to do something really radically different. And I signed up for that in an instant. Now, our housing authority at that point was really broken. We were on a troubled housing authority list. We had a new director join the year before named Renee Glover. And when I got to know Renee and some of the other folks there, I said, I'm signing up. I'm throwing in with these people to see if we can fix this really broken system, figure out how we create this resource that should support people on their journey to economic mobility, not throw up obstacles. And one of my very first weeks there, 2 weeks in, Renee walks into my office and she says, "You are coming with me out to East Lake." And I said, "Oh no, you've confused me with somebody else. I'm your deal lawyer." And she said, "There's nobody else home. You're coming with me." And that invitation changed the direction of both my personal life and professional life. I became part of the planning committee in East Lake Meadows. I got to know the residents of East Lake Meadows in a really personal way. You can look at all the statistics. I'm going to show you a video for just a sec about results. But when you looked at all the data, the data suggested that life was really difficult in East Lake, and it was. Crime rate was 18 times the national average. Only a handful of folks working. The employment rate was 12%. The employment rate, not the unemployment rate. Average incomes for families was about $4,500 a year. The longer kids spent in the neighborhood elementary school, the further behind the more affluent years they fell. Every system that was supposed to be supporting people in East Lake Meadows was failing them. But what was really exciting to learn, it was the systems that were broken, it wasn't the people. And I have to say, I think I had bought into the narrative that a lot of this was the people's fault. And I came to understand it was the systems that had let people down and created obstacle after obstacle for folks. So we ended up being in a time where only the really lucky or the really talented were able to move forward, and most kids fell further behind and weren't likely to have better outcomes than their parents. So we were really thinking about doing something really radical. A rich white real estate developer in Atlanta named Tom Cousins had started a group called the East Lake Foundation about that same time. And Tom started that. He had bought the East Lake Golf Club, which was about to be sold on the courthouse steps. He bought the golf club and thought, man, this is going to be a great thing for this part of Atlanta. And maybe we'll have a little after-school program and we'll help kids learn how to play the game of golf and we'll move that forward. And Tom and his team realized very quickly that a golf after-school program wasn't going to change outcomes for kids in the East Lake Meadows. That we needed a deeper kind of intervention in the community to change outcomes for folks. Renee at the Housing Authority knew that. And most importantly, so did Eva Davis, who is the president of the East Lake Meadows Residents Association. Ms. Davis knew what she wanted to achieve, but she needed allies in order to be able to get that. And so this group formed between Eva Davis, Tom Cousins, and Renee Glover, and those of us who worked for them and worked with them. And a really difficult, trust building, one step forward, two step back kind of process. Over the next 2 years, we created a plan to revitalize the East Lake neighborhood. It was hard, it was complicated, and it was imperfect, but it has created some great outcomes in the community. I'm going to show you just a few minutes of East Lake, and then I'm going to tell you about how that inspired the creation of purpose-built communities and how we help folks do this across the country. So Sarah, let's see if we can make this work.
Hi, my name is Alicia Dawkins. My family and I have lived in the East Lake community for 18 years. Welcome to East Lake. In the heart of Atlanta, the East Lake community has undergone a remarkable transformation. The East Lake Meadows housing development faced significant challenges stemming from disinvestment and racist policies and practices for decades. Poverty, crime, and limited opportunities trapped its residents in a cycle of despair. Since 1995, the East Lake Foundation has worked with integral partners to break down the barriers to well-being through a holistic, resident-centered, and community-driven approach. The Cradle to College Education Continuum is a cornerstone. Strong early education partners, the award-winning Charles R. Drew Charter School, and a commitment to excellent preparation and support for the next steps of college and career are offered to all students. Affordable housing initiatives provide beautiful, safe, and stable homes. Community wellness programs promote well-being through access to vital health, wellness, and recreational resources. The East Lake Foundation's success is proof that with the right partners, programs, support, and a commitment to equity, transformative change is possible. Increasing affordable housing and renovating existing owner-occupied homes, new academic interventions, and additional college and career readiness support, and expanding mental health resources for children and families is central to our mission. Together, we can make even more possible. We hope you'll join us.
I left the Housing Authority in 2001 and became the executive director of the East Lake Foundation. So on the one hand, I just really moved around the round table, right? And every lawyer, by the way, ought to have responsibility for operationalizing something that they dreamed up around a planning table at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to get a deal closed, because you will learn things that will be very important for the rest of your life. But my job became, how do we help the folks, all the partners, the education partners, the housing partners, the health and wellness partners, how do we help them work together with residents to really be able to provide outcomes? And over the years, our data became better and better. Heard some of that data in that little video. But people started coming to see us. You know, that's really when things started changing. We started having 500 people, 1,000 people, 2,000 people, 3,000 people a year come to visit us. It's like we could show them around a little bit. And we talked about how complicated it was and all the things we needed to be able to do. And most people just went back and they said, well, that's really nice, but you know, I'm an educator, I don't know housing, or I'm a houser, I don't know education. We can't do this. And so in 2009, we spent some time looking to see, well, what were the obstacles to people really trying to figure this out? And could we create an organization that could help them figure out how to do it? And that was really how purpose-built communities were formed. To take the lessons learned from East Lake and what we would learn from other really creative, smart community developers around the country and create an organization that can help other folks do the same thing in their town. So we created a model, we created this an organization that provides free consulting services to help folks who want to do this work figure out how to take the model that we have created and implement it in town. So that's what we do. And we do it this way. We talked at our table before. We are neighborhoodists. That does not roll off the tongue, but we believe neighborhood is the important unit of change in cities across the country. If neighborhoods aren't working for the people who live there, the city is not working. And so that's how we bring, that's the focus that we bring, creating healthy neighborhoods. We know economic mobility is directly tied to place. We know social capital is tied to place. Health outcomes are tied to place. So we are trying to improve places with the goal of creating better economic mobility, better health outcomes, and a place where people experience greater respect. Let's go to the next slide. So, I mean, this is a nationwide problem. I mean, I'm going to skip to the headline. 1 in 10 Black kids, actually, I'm sorry, 4 in 10 Black kids continue to live in neighborhoods of concentrated poverty in this country. That number hasn't changed since 1965, right? Only 1% of white kids live in neighborhoods of concentrated poverty. So we have to acknowledge that it's been the racist policies and practices that have been put in place long ago, many of which are still really sticky, that keep people trapped in place and that benefit white families at the expense of Black families. Let's keep moving. 86% of third graders who live in neighborhoods of concentrated poverty don't read at grade level. 86%, that's across the country. Think about that as an economic issue. You folks are business leaders. If you've got a whole group of folks in your community who can't read, they're not going to be good employees. They're not going to be able to be the kind of citizens that they could be if they had access to better opportunities from an education standpoint and a community standpoint. Let's go to the next. Keep going. Oh, go back one. I want to point out this slide. Have you all heard of Raj Chetty? He's an economist at Harvard who started this program called the Opportunity Atlas. Go to opportunityatlas.org and you can look at data from your own community. Now, this is about economic mobility across the country. And, you know, not surprisingly, red means it's bad, right? Red means it's bad. If you grow up in the bottom 20% of the economic food chain in Atlanta, you have a 4% chance of moving to the top 20% in your life. What we're talking about is being in a family that goes from what, about $15,000 a year, would be the bottom part, making it up to $75,000. That's a 4% chance. That's not the kind of economic mobility that we've all believed exists in this country. It doesn't exist for everybody. And that's what we're trying to do, is create neighborhoods that have broad, deep, durable pathways to economic mobility for everybody. Let's move ahead. Keep going. Oh, life expectancy. Yeah, talk about an economic and social justice issue. The neighborhood where you live is a better predictor of your life expectancy and your health outcomes than your genetic code. That's true all over the country. Causes of premature death. 70% of premature death is tied to your behavior, where you live, your environment. Those are the things that those of us who are community developers have a chance to be able to change. So we think that we can really make a difference in this space, frankly, more than any medical professional will ever be able to do. You know, and as I said earlier, this didn't happen by accident. This happened as a result of very intentional policies and practices that were adopted by our governments long ago. And I'm sure you've all read about redlining. You've all looked at issues associated with exclusionary zoning, highway construction right through the middle of what were once prosperous Black neighborhoods. I mean, these were very intentional things that were done with an idea of making life harder for Black people and for white people. White people have benefited, and Black people have suffered as a result of this. We have to undo this, and this is slow and hard work. This is one of the ways that you can undo these impacts. So we are neighborhoodists. We believe that neighborhoods are the foundations of good health and opportunity. We know it's hard and complicated to build great neighborhoods that serve people across a broad range of incomes, but we think it's important. Collaboration, restoration, and investment. So our vision, we want every neighborhood to be a place that connects people with their dreams and aspirations. Pathways to opportunity and prosperity for those who fall. We have a long mission. I'm not going to read it to you. What we do is we try to blend practice, policy, research, all these things together to be able to support local folks who are trying to do this work in their community. Again, we do it without charge, and now we're able to bring a little bit of money with us in many cases to help move these things forward. Our big 3 outcomes that we're trying to get to, greater racial equity, better health outcomes, and upward economic mobility for the people where we're invited to work. We work really hard. We coach, we connect, we help structure public-private partnerships with our local network members and their public sector and private sector partners. Most communities will only do this once, or we'll do it once to start, but because we've been doing it in many places and we've hired experts on our team, we can help accelerate that process because we've got, again, people who bring both trust and expertise into this work. So we can help structure really complicated transactions with housing authorities, school systems and others in order to be able to accelerate moving forward. This is a trust-based world, right? Where we have to build authentic relationships with the people where in the communities where we're invited to work, we bring a model that is designed to bring this kind of impact. We have metrics and milestones that we use to help measure progress going forward. We've created a community of practice among the 25 network members that we have around the country, so people are deciding their own learning agenda and working together to solve their problems. And we're working really hard to build national and regional strategic partners that can help with funding and other expertise that everybody needs in order to be able to do this. This is our model. This is a new depiction of our model. We used to have a little house with 3 pillars, and it was nice and easy, but it really missed a lot. And so we created a more complicated visual. I want to explain what you're looking at right here. In the center, neighborhood residents, people who live in the neighborhood. That's what this is, resident-centered work. Right next to them, we have an organization called a community quarterback organization, which is almost always, but not always, a newly created organization that is not delivering direct services in a neighborhood, but is working with the neighborhood to create the vision and then figuring out what partners need to be at the table to implement that vision, and then works to create opportunities for that vision to, in fact, reach its biggest possibilities. There are 4 key strategies that we think are important in creating a healthy, sustainable neighborhood. 1, high quality mixed income housing. How do we create housing that serves people across a broad range of incomes in a seamless way so no one knows who's paying 30% of my income for a public housing subsidy, or somebody who's paying a third of their income at a market rate to live in the same place. Second, we think about creating a neighborhood serving cradle through college education pipeline that starts with the little itty bitties, that's every little genius ready for kindergarten and beyond, with an expectation that everybody graduates from high school and is ready with a financeable, actionable plan for the next stage of their life. And we're thinking about community wellness. What are the kinds of amenities that everybody wants in their neighborhood, but are too often missing in low-income neighborhoods? That's everything from grocery stores, to branch banks, to parks and rec, all the kinds of things that if you're lucky enough to have choice of where you're going to live, are the kinds of things that you think about that make your community a great place to live. But also some of the places where you have that kind of connectedness, right? That's so important. The last piece is economic vitality. We used to embed this, honestly, in community health and wellness, but we really wanted to recognize that creating neighborhoods that have economics in them, where there are businesses and jobs and opportunities for people to build wealth as a result of living in that neighborhood, was a really important part of our strategy if we were serious about it. So we have those things. So mixed income housing, a community wellness strategy, economic vitality, a cradle through college education pipeline, with neighborhood-centered and a community quarterback to help orchestrate and make it happen and nurture and sustain it long term. These are the things that have made Eastlake successful, and these are the things that are making other neighborhood revitalization successful across the country. So Purpose-Built works now in 25 neighborhoods across the country. We have just finished our strategic plan that'll guide us for the next 5 years. We're going to double in size in the next 5 years. Some of that will be adding new network members. Some of that is expanding the geography that certain network members already serve. So moving into another neighborhood. So we'll be serving more folks. And we're really excited about it. Bringing more expertise to bear to be able to help local leaders figure out how to do this in their own. This is our fancy strategic plan. It took us a year. Those of you who've been through a strategic planning process know how hard and how important it can be. I know you don't care about this, but I am trying to lean into our strategic plan and live it. So I want to share it again. Supporting network members. This is our key business. That's our core business, supporting network members on the ground. Strengthening the network as a collective. Man, 26 organizations across the country doing this work are much more persuasive in policy conversations at both state and federal levels than just one or two organizations. So there's power in numbers and coming together to be effective in advocating for what we need. We're building a new field about the connectedness, the economic connectedness, economic mobility and place. And so we're playing a leadership role there. And then of course we have to build an organization that will allow us to do all these things at really high levels. So that's our 4 strategic priorities. Thank you for humoring me on that one. So I want to share it. I'm going to open up for questions now. These are things that we have learned over time. Racial equity has to be a strategic priority and a core value in this kind of work. If it's not, you're not the right folks to be doing this work. You might be well-meaning, but this is really important. We've also learned that our language really matters. How we talk about this work is really important. And I can tell you, I make mistakes every single day, and I'm trying to get better at my language because language really matters. I would encourage you to look at our website. There's a section called Where We Thrive, which was designed to help create language as an opportunity to bring people together to talk about this work, because right now it's hard to do that. And we need people to talk about it. Resident voice and power have to guide the work. How are we creating a real opportunity to share power, share decision-making, and elevating that in the process? And again, people care about really the cycle of poverty and economic mobility. We've got to think about wealth building opportunities. And sometimes that's for home ownership, sometimes it's by owning a business, but we're a capitalist society. The way you build wealth is to get and build your capital. And so we want to be really intentional about that as well. Last thing I'll say, a strong community quarterback, that nonprofit organization that is in the quarterbacking business. This is the secret sauce to success. Every network member that we support that has a strong quarterback organization, they are doing great. And the unit community quarterback organization, doesn't matter how on board the public sector partners are, that doesn't get to the outcome. So I can talk for a long time. And I know sometimes it's like, trying to take a sip of water from a fire hose when you listen to me, but I want to open up the floor for conversation for the next few minutes. First hand up, so.
We talked about the importance of early childhood literacy. Where does your organization down start?
Say a little bit more about that.
Senior England Street will look called pointing out that whether it's white or black, if you have poverty, lower educational gap.
So I mean, the data all shows that that's true, and we work with communities and where they are. And so, really high quality early learning, high quality schools, programs that can help make up for the gap if there's only a single parent in a household. Honestly, I would never encourage somebody to get married only for economic reasons. Marriage is hard, right? And says the person who just celebrated her 40th wedding anniversary. So yes, while that's true, figuring out how do we grow up the next generation of people who value marriage, value partnership, and are committed and bringing both skills and an orientation that says, man, I want to be married. I want to be part of this partnership. I think it's a long-term thing, not a short-term thing. Yes, sir.
This sounds fair.
Mm-hmm.
How long?
Let me give you a couple of examples. So many places where we work, there's no early learning center. No neighborhoods. That would be a place with local leaders to figure out what's the early strategy, having an ecosystem, so ultimately every little kid in that. When you're talking about, some do some things that the school would not be able to do, but they also work with the school to try things that haven't been done. So it might be, how do we get an opportunity for the school principal to have more say over her budget and how her budget gets spent? So for example, she might know that it will be more important to have a couple of extra kids in her class to get a little bit more money through the state funding system. And she'd like to use those extra dollars to put paraprofessionals in the classrooms for everybody from kindergarten to third grade. Help them figure out what that strategy is and figure out how to get the appropriate flexibility at a school to be able to address the needs of children in that community. And I'd say 5 years after that, that principal might say, that's really worked, and now I have another change. So we would work side by side with that principal, with that community quarterback, to come up with different strategies to meet the needs of children and families where they are on the life cycle of both the families and the initiative. So it's really very granular, the kind of support that we provide. We don't have a project here to be talking about specifically, so I am speaking in generalities, but I hope that's helpful to say, yeah, we're looking at really important things. We're looking at how do you deliver mixed income housing? How do you attract developers who will do mixed income housing? Because not every people will say, well, everybody knows how to do it. We can attract developers to a community who know how to do mixed income, who want to partner with other folks to make sure that families who live in their development have access to all these amenities that create wins for everybody. Yes, sir.
I wonder if you find able to track your code with school district yes.
Yeah, it's funny you use the term defined area. That's it. We create agreements with community quarterback organizations that we support. Part of that is defining what the neighborhood is. Some cities have officially designated neighborhoods and their boundaries, and everybody knows this is that neighborhood. Some places don't. And so you might look at an elementary attendance zone, or you might look at something else in South Atlanta. I remember you met Bob Lupton and have heard you talk about FCS, focused community strategies. Their defined neighborhood is the middle school attendance zone of the neighborhood there. So we try to be creative. When we were invited to Oakland a few years ago by a big foundation, they wanted us to work in East Oakland with 90,000 people. And we said, oh, that's not a neighborhood. That's a quarter of the city. So we looked to say, how do you get down to a small area that people there recognize as their neighborhood? That's where we start. How do people who live there think about it as their neighborhood? You're welcome. Yes, sir.
How do you address ground problem? Run off those.
Yeah, we've had, really good success in the neighborhoods where we work, that when you bring healthy businesses to the communities and people have a pathway that's other than crime, they work. Now, you have to really be focused and intentional. But if you look in Eastlake, you look in South Atlanta, you look over in Omaha, Spartanburg, all the crime rates have gone down dramatically. And part of that is because people feel a sense of hope and possibility. And there are things markets that are working other than the drug market. And so, if people have possibility, they will move forward. But we're finding that's not as big an obstacle as we thought it might be. Y'all, it's great to be here.
Such an interesting program. We appreciate you taking time to be with us. So in your honor today, we're going to be making a donation to Polio Plus, which is Rotary's initiative to eliminate polio worldwide. So just as a reminder, our program's coming up. Next week's Donna Howard, CEO of Children's Healthcare Atlanta. They've been shepherding a $2 billion healthcare project. Those numbers are so staggering, it's hard to. So you'll hear about their new hospital and their plans for the future. January 24th is Phil Smith with Concord Coalition, a group that works on federal budget issues and ways to reduce the deficit, reduce the national debt. Really interesting fellow, good friend of mine. And let's see, January 31st, Jenny Cruz Sanders, who's Executive Director of the State Botanical Gardens of Georgia. She's a rock star. She's so dynamic and doing a good job at UGA. You'll enjoy hearing her. And then February 7th, we have Dr. Angel Cabrera, the president of Georgia Tech. So again, plan to come back, bring a visitor, bring a friend. Thank you all for being here. We're adjourned.
Okay.